The house I grew up in was never a home. It was a place where walls seemed to close in, where love was a word spoken but never felt, and where every day brought a new kind of pain. My mother and sister were the architects of my misery, their words and actions weaving a cage I couldn't see but could always feel. I lived in the shadow of their cruelty, my heart bruised by their relentless attacks. Yet, within me, a spark of defiance flickered, a quiet determination to break free, no matter the cost. It all came to a head the day I told my mum I wanted to leave for college. I'd been dreaming of a life beyond those suffocating walls. A life where I could breathe without fear, where I could be more than the target of their scorn. But when I spoke those words, my mother unraveled. Her face contorted, and she began to sob, her voice rising into a scream that echoed through the house. "You don't love me!" she wailed, her hands clutching at the air as if she could pull me back into her control. "You're abandoning me!" I stood there, my heart pounding, trying to explain that I just wanted a chance to grow, to learn, to live. But she wouldn't hear it. She turned her pain into a weapon, and my sister was all too eager to join the assault. My sister stormed into the room, her eyes glinting with malice. "What's going on?" she demanded, and before I could speak, my mum screamed again. "She's leaving us! She doesn't care about me!" That was all my sister needed. She pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the screen, and within moments, my phone buzzed with a message that felt like a punch to the gut. "You're trash," it read. "Nobody loves you, and nobody ever will. You're a pathetic, empty shell, and you'd be doing everyone a favor if you just ended it. I'm glad you were robbed, and I hope you get hurt again. You don't deserve anything else." She didn't stop there. She dragged up every wound I'd ever shared in confidence, the assault I'd survived, the boyfriend who left me, the times I'd called for help as a child. Each word was a calculated strike, designed to break me. And when she mocked my pain, suggesting I should do it because no one would care, I felt the ground shift beneath me. I couldn't hold back the tears. They spilled down my cheeks, hot and unstoppable, and when my mom saw me crying, she didn't reach out to comfort me. She laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that cut deeper than any words. "Hilarious," she called my sister, her voice dripping with pride. "You're going nowhere," she told me, her eyes cold and triumphant before she walked away. I stood there, frozen, the weight of their words pressing down on me. But my sister wasn't done. She returned later, her face twisted into a smug grin, her voice laced with mock concern. "What's wrong?" she asked, leaning in close. "Did I hurt your little feelings?" Before I could respond, she flicked the back of my head, hard enough to make me stumble. "Oops," she said, laughing. "Didn't see you there." Her breath was hot against my ear as she whispered, "You're such a crybaby. No wonder nobody wants you around. Why don't you just disappear? It'd be better for everyone." Her laughter followed her out of the room, sharp and mean, leaving me trembling, my fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palm. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I knew it would only give her what she wanted. So I stood there, silent, my head throbbing, my heart heavier than I could bear. That night, I retreated to my room and locked the door, my mind racing. I couldn't stay in this house anymore. It wasn't a home, it was a battlefield, and I was losing myself with every passing day. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the blank wall, trying to piece together a plan. I needed to leave, but how? My mom and sister would never let me walk out the front door. I needed to be smart, careful, invisible. I grabbed my phone and opened my sister's messages, my hands shaking as I read them again. I didn't want to relive the pain, but I knew I needed evidence. I took screenshots of every cruel word, every threat, saving them in a hidden folder and backing them up to my email. Years of her venomous texts filled my screen, each one a reminder of why I had to escape. It felt wrong, like I was betraying my family by preparing to defend myself, but they'd left me no choice. I had to protect myself, even if it meant building a case against the people who were supposed to love me. Next, I started packing. I moved quietly, my heart pounding with every creak of the floorboards. I stuffed a small backpack with essentials. A few changes of clothes, my laptop, a couple of books that had kept me sane, and the $300 I'd saved from my part-time job. It wasn't much, but it was a starter lifeline to a world beyond this house. I buried the cash deep in my bag, under my clothes, and zipped it up, my hands trembling with adrenaline. Every sound outside my room felt like a threat, and when I heard footsteps in the hallway, I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The doorknob rattled, and my mom's voice cut through the silence. "Open the door," she snapped. I hesitated, my heart racing, but I forced myself to unlock it. She pushed her way in, her eyes immediately locking onto the bag on my bed. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to slice through the air. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just packing for college," I said, forcing a smile. "I want to be ready." But she didn't believe me. Her eyes narrowed, and she stepped closer, her face inches from mine. "Don't lie to me," she hissed. "You think you're going to run off and have some perfect little life? You're not going anywhere. You belong here, with your family." The word family felt like a mockery, but I nodded, pretending to agree, my stomach churning with fear and defiance. "I know, Mum," I said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." It was a lie, and she knew it, but she couldn't prove it. She glared at me, her eyes searching for any crack in my facade, before finally turning and slamming the door behind her. I let out a shaky breath, my hands trembling as I finished packing. I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to stay in this prison, letting them tear me apart piece by piece. I reached out to an acquaintance whose family lived far away, people who knew my mum and understood her volatility. They offered me a place to stay, a safe haven where she couldn't reach me. It felt like a lifeline, a chance to start over. But their fear of my mother's wrath soon overwhelmed their kindness. They called me, their voices heavy with regret, and said they couldn't take the risk. "She's too unpredictable," they said. "If she finds out you're here, she might do something crazy." I was devastated, but I understood. My mum's anger was a force of nature, and I couldn't ask them to face it. I had to find another way. That night, I made my move. I waited until the house was quiet, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure it would wake them. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and crept toward the door, every step deliberate, every breath shallow. But as I reached for the handle, my mum appeared, her eyes wild with fury. "Where do you think you're going?" she screamed, grabbing a vase and hurling it at me. It shattered against the wall, fragments scattering at my feet. "You're nothing without me!" she shrieked, her threats chasing me as I ran into the night. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I was a mess, unwashed, exhausted, terrified, but I was free. I found refuge in a domestic violence shelter, a place that felt like a miracle after the chaos I'd escaped. The staff were kind, their voices gentle, their actions proof that not everyone saw me as a burden. They took me to the ER to get my medication, and though I felt self-conscious about my disheveled appearance, no one judged me. The shelter was a haven, clean and safe, with security that let me sleep without fear for the first time in years. I had 30 days to rebuild my life, and I poured everything into making it count. I applied for jobs, determined to find something better than the cinema gig I'd initially considered. To my relief, I landed a position that paid enough to imagine a future, maybe not a grand one, but one where I could stand on my own. The shelter wasn't just a roof over my head, it was a community. There were 7 other women there, each with their own stories of survival. We shared meals, taking turns cooking, and formed a bond that felt like the family I'd never had. They helped me prepare for interviews, doing my makeup, and offering advice that carried me through. A local church group visited, bringing handmade quilts, and I still cherish mine, washing it carefully and wrapping myself in it when I need to remember how far I've come. The shelter offered therapy, both group and individual, and those sessions helped me untangle the pain I'd carried for so long. I learned that family abuse is real, that it counts as domestic violence, and that I was right to leave. After the shelter, I chose independence over relying on my acquaintances' family. I'd learned not to trust fragile promises, not after everything I'd been through. I rented a room from a truck driver who was rarely home, a kind man who left me notes when our schedules didn't align. I kept one of his notes, a simple, "Take care," that felt like a small gift in a world that had given me so little. I returned to school, but not the one my family knew about. I applied to new colleges, pouring my story of survival into my application essay. My sister's voice echoed in my mind, telling me I'd be nothing, but I silenced it with every step forward. I graduated, older than I'd planned, but stronger, with a degree that felt like a triumph over every doubt they'd tried to plant in me. Today, my life is a world away from that house of horrors. I'm engaged to a man whose love feels like a gift I never thought I'd deserve. His family has welcomed me as their own, their warmth filling the voids my own family left behind. When I got sick recently, he drove out at 2 a.m. to buy Pedialyte, promising to make me lentil soup without me asking. It's a stark contrast to the mother who once told me to go back to sleep when I was vomiting as a child. His 6 siblings are like the brothers and sisters I never had. Their laughter and support a reminder that family can be chosen. I've learned to love myself in ways my family never did. I buy myself flowers every week, a habit my therapist suggested, and it's a small act of defiance against the years of neglect. When I'm sick, I rest without guilt. When I need space, I take it, spending days with my phone off, savoring my own company. These are the gifts I give myself, the ones I was never given. Looking back, I see a girl who thought 30 days in a shelter could never be enough to rebuild a life. I was wrong. Those days were the foundation of everything I am now. I was broken, scared, and hopeless, but I fought my way out. And today, I'm thriving proof that even in the darkest moments, there's a light worth chasing, and it's worth every step of the fight.